Okay, welcome everybody to my sales coaching clinic number 4 during this wonderful time here where we get to learn on our couches. Today's clinic is Start to Win. And so I'm going to teach you some techniques that I've had some pretty good success with. And like I said, I was preparing for this and there's so much information to present. So I'm hoping you guys will take notes because it's not all going to be there. For Armand and Jaden and any other youth teams, more than happy to make this this recording available to you. The rest of you, well, maybe I'll make it with a donation. Maybe that's what I ought to do. So I encourage you to take notes. And I think you're going to want to take a lot of them. Hey, Randy, I see you. You can, hi. And also, this is going to be an interactive one. I wish I could. I'm gonna. Yeah, hold on. I wish I got too much backlight here. I think. There we go. Let's see if that helps. Not much. All right. Anyhow, feel free to pop in with some questions. I'm not, the whiz-all of technology, so I'll try to monitor chat, but the reality is between presenting and chat, it's probably not going to happen. So you're probably better off just busting in and asking questions, and feel free to do that. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this, this is being hosted by the Multi-Hull Youth Sail Foundation, or MySail. Just a little quick bio on that. We got started about 2 years ago with really just one mission, and that is to put more kids out on the water. So we're trying to raise the next generation of multi-hull sailors in a way that help them to really compete at a really high level, whether it's Olympic, national, club, world, whatever. So that's kind of our general mission. We are a nonprofit, and we are, the way we're setting up is to create 5 regional centers throughout the United States in the Northeast, the Southeast, the Northwest, the Southwest, and the Midwest. We're currently working with affiliates in the Northwest and Southeast, and we are looking and in conversation with for people in the Northeast, Southwest, and Midwest. So if you have some passionate people, we're looking for people more than entities in this virtual world we live in. So if you know people in those areas that are passionate about multi-hull sailing, little plug here, have them get in touch with me. Let me see here. Just a real quick thing about my background. I'm not much into bragging, but I have been sailing all my life. Born and raised on San Francisco Bay back in the 50s when it was all wooden boats and stuff like that. I remember the first plastic fantastic, we used to call him, the Triton, 30-foot fiberglass boat coming out in about 60 or 61. And we were all laughing about those boats. And now here we are, many years later. Got started sailing multi-hulls in early 80s. And I was hooked instantly, man. So for somebody who's been sailing all my life on big, slow boats, this just hooked me. And been sailing, I've sailed monohull dinghies too. But I mean to tell you, the speed differences that multi-hulls give you really give you instant feedback so that you can learn instantaneously. Growing up on San Francisco Bay and those big old slugs, well, did we win because we went the right way? It's all time corrected. And even in one design, you don't see the differences like you do in a multi-hull. And I can remember on a Hobie cat, and I'm going along, and there's some guy, we're going downwind, and he went right by me to leeward. And I'm like, damn. So I looked over what he was doing. started copying what he was doing, and all of a sudden I'm keeping up with him, and the lesson was on. So I'm a big fan of multi-hull sailing. I will preface this by saying, though, that I have largely sailed the Hobie Cat. I want to say that my sail is blind to the type of multi-hull. As long as it's got 2 or 3 hulls, we're cool with that. As long as it's what's now being called apparent wind sailing. You're hearing professional sailors from the very top on down, and they're now starting to call it apparent wind sailing. And these are the Maws, the Knackers, the Hobies, come on. I just went blank. The other Olympic class. Come on, somebody help me out.
Tornado?
No, monohull.
Macro.
No, it's a monohull.
Oh, what'd you say?
Huh? With the racks. Oh, anyhow, you know what I mean.
49er.
49. Yes.
Yeah,
49ers. And the 49er works on apparent wind also, and so they're kind of a kissing cousin to us in that regard. And so I've been sailing mostly the 16 since 1985 is when I got my first. I'm now sailing in the local, the national, and the world level. Did my best in the Worlds in Florida just this last November. Actually, do a little bragging. Oh, thanks, Will. All right. Dark and stormy. You guys can't see it, but thank you, Will. All right. I hope it is too. I'm sure it is. So we're set now. It's going to be a dark and stormy clinic. And anyhow, so I'm in the Masters. I didn't do so well the first couple of days, but the last 3 races, man, I got an 8th. And then on the last day, there were 2 races on the last day. I got a bullet, and I was leading the second race all the way into the gate with an upwind finish, and I gave it up and finished second. But still, man, 8-1-2. I was amped. I was fired up. I'm a competitor. I have 1 national championship. It was in the A team a couple of years ago with my boy, my son Will. He was driving, and as we're going up for the award, somebody in the crowd yells out, "Yeah, the only way Peter could win a national championship is if he gave up the helm." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, thanks." So I'm the Rodney Dangerfield of sailing. I get no respect. But I have done a fair amount of sailing and a fair amount of starting. So I think I can get you guys up there. So I'm going to start off with just a very short recap on last week's, which was prepare to win. And good starting starts with preparation and good preparation. I was out on the water yesterday, and like I do all my practices, I finished it off with some starts. In my case, it's just 1 boat starting because I don't have anybody out there right now. But if you ever go out sailing, I highly recommend every time you finish off with some practice starts. Excuse me. Okay, I'm going to be talking for a little bit. I'll try to also share some stuff, but it is going to be kind of note-taking time right now. It starts with hitting the water. Mostly when I'm at regattas, I want to get out there, one of the first, if not the first boat out there. I want to be prepped. And usually I will use the committee as a gauge. If I see those chase boats leaving the beach, I know it. If I'm not already suited up, I best get suited up. So I have a term that I recently adopted. It's called being on schedule. I'm either on schedule, behind schedule, or ahead of schedule. All right. And this helps me communicate to my crew whether to get your butt in gear or if we're cool. Obviously, I'm the type, everybody's different, so I can't speak for you, but when I get behind schedule, I tend to kind of get a little uptight, and there's more there's more tendency to want to snap at each other or whatever. The tension level rises. And so what you really want to do is be ahead of schedule or on schedule. And that's really pretty critical. So for me, if I can be ahead of schedule by getting out there early, or if I can be on schedule, I'm cool with it. If I'm behind schedule, starting and racing, it's already kind of amped up enough. I don't need to be behind schedule and make it any worse. Usually when I hit the water, I go out there, I'll sail by committee, you know. I don't just go out there and hang, right? This is a time to collect information. That's why I got out there, right? I'm not just going to leave and go and, you know, and park the boat and drink a beer. So I usually go by a committee boat, see what kind of condition they're in. And then I'll go up I'll head up and do the upwind leg. During the upwind leg, I'm usually looking for, I'm trying to identify what kind of wind I have, whether the wind is settled or whether it's very unsettled. If it's puffy or shifty, I consider that to be unsettled. If it's really quite consistent, if it's a sea breeze, something like that, then that tells me something else, that it is kind of settled. If it's shifting, I want to take note. I might look at my watch and take note at what the time on those shifts might be, because there might be a very good chance that 30 seconds before the start of that race, I might get a shift. You know what I mean? You're up at the weather end of the line, and all of a sudden you get a big header, and you go, oh crap, why am I here? I need to be down at the port end of the line. So I'm looking at that. I'm checking out the current. You know, I might sail up around the weather mark, certainly looking at it down in the committee boat area. I'm sailing upwind and back down. I'm looking at anomalies, like geographic outcroppings. They might be points where wind might compress, or cliffs. And I'm trying to evaluate how the wind might change. You always want to be looking at the sky, because wind, there's a real strong correlation between wind and clouds. And if you go near the edges of clouds, you will usually find a better breeze. My understanding, I'm not a meteorologist, but my understanding of wind is that it kind of comes down and fans out when it hits the water from a cloud. And so you can pick up some acceleration on the edge of clouds. I'm looking at at the water. One of the sites that we race on locally, it's really lumpy on the right side, and it's flat over on the side, on the left side. So, you know, we always start down at the pin. You can start down at the pin, and it's pretty much a one-way kind of course because of the flat water. Upwind, especially, Hobies like flat, well, multihulls like flat water. It's called vertical sailing. It doesn't go fast, man. Keep the bow down and go. And then also just taking into note any other items that you might see that are peculiar to the area or to that particular venue. Okay, so that's just how you might prepare, get out there. There's going to be more. We'll get into that. The skill sets that you need to become a good starter consistently. Number one is you have to like starting. I love it, man. There's a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm afraid I'm going to hit somebody, right? I can tell you, if you don't know how to control your boat, that's probably really good idea that you should be. So what you want to do is, because it's close racing, it's close sailing. And so that's where the practice comes out, and you learn, and I'm going to teach you, I'm going to show you how to control your boat at low speed. You want to get really good. When you get good at that, your confidence builds. And when your confidence builds, you start wanting to get in there and go, yeah, bring it on, baby. I'm ready. It helps if you don't have any fear, you know, if you're all worried about hitting people or them not liking you or whatever, you might get controlled by that fear, and that could affect the outcome of your start. As I already mentioned, you want to have confidence. And there's a saying about fake it till you make it. But on the starts, if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't have control of your boat, I would caution you about mixing it up. I really believe in this case, you do want to have a certain level of skill. You don't have to have it all perfected, all right? That comes with practice. But you don't want to be a cowboy in there either. All right. So Pedro Colon, a buddy of mine from Puerto Rico, and he always says, yeah, there's two kinds of people out there on the course, on the start line. There's cowboys and there's tourists. Oh, excuse me. So you don't want to be a tourist. That's what it is. And so a tourist, that's somebody who is out of control. They're just there because they're trying to wonder, oh, gee, this is kind of cool. No idea what they're supposed to be doing. You don't want to be that tourist. The cowboy is the hot shot who, like the tourist, thinks he owns the place, but has no idea what he's doing either. And those are two people actually you want to stay away from typically. When you're on the starting line, I'm not going to cover this. I need to cover this later. I'm going to cover it right now because it's not in my notes. You want to stay away from certain people on the start line. They will identify themselves over time, if not immediately. And specifically, it's cowboys and tourists. And when you find one, you just get away. Nothing wrong with them. I'm not saying anything about that. And then the skill that you need to have, and I saved the best for last, you need to be able to sail at slow speeds. All right. You go slow to win. All right. And sailing slow comes in handy in two spots on the course. One is at the start, and we'll talk about that. And the other is at the leeward mark, because you are number 6 in a big old pinwheel getting ready to go around that leeward mark. And you would be far better off to slow down and let those 5 go in front of you so that you can round up inside of them and have clear air. All right. So those are the two spots where sailing slow makes sense. And I should have started out with this. Can we all agree that 90% of the race is in the start? I mean, that's in one design, that's really where it is. All right. Yeah, there's another 10% where you can make up a few spots and you can lose a whole bunch. But it's pretty much at the start. And I got to keep wetting the whistle, guys, so bear with me. And so that's why we're all here, of course. But that's where the fun is too, man. And you got to love it. Any questions so far? All right, cool. So what's the goals of a good start? Well, let's first off start by defining. A great start would be hitting the line at full speed when the gun goes off, right? I don't know if I've ever done that in 35 years of sailing on any boat, because there's these other little things around there. These guys are called competitors. That's what it is. Yeah. And they keep messing with me and messing up my starts. What you want to do, one of the goals of a good start is to be what I would call punched out. All right. When you in a fleet of boats where the line is tight. Now, if it's a local start where you've got a 20-foot boat line, a 20-boat starting line, and there's only 5 of you, this doesn't apply. But at a national event, at a world event, regional event, or just an event where the PRO has set up a good start line, there is what's called the picket fence effect. And what it is you just got a whole bunch of boats lined up. And what happens is the wind will come in It hits all of your sails at the same time, and then it goes up and then over, all right? And it gets really pronounced on a 50 or 60 boat fleet like we had at Worlds in November. So that's actually an important element. I hadn't thought about this until now. If you're I would expect that the edge effects of the picket fence would be less at either end. But if you're in the middle of the course, it's all just going up and over. I can remember being at what was it? I think it was a North Americans in Fort Walton Beach. And I think, anyhow, it was really light air. I mean, like super light. I got myself in position and we're counting down. And within 1 minute, I'd left the hole to leeward. We'll talk about that later. This guy comes in below me. I didn't know what I was doing. And he says, bring it up, bring it up, bring it up. I bring it up. I stall out in no air, no going. The gun goes off. The whole fleet takes off. And I literally watched my tailtails drop down for a good 2 to 2.5 minutes. I mean, we were camped at the friggin' committee boat. You know, I ordered pizza. I didn't know what else to do. All right. And so, and they delivered before we got going. That was how bad it was. But it was amazing how those tailtails, and they stayed down. After they got about, I would say 10 or 12, 15, 20, it's a long time ago, 15 boat lengths away from me, boom, the tailtails on my bridle reattached, and I was able to go sailing again, and it was game, set, and match for that race. So, let me see, what else? So you want to be punched out slightly. You do run the risk of being an OCS. You don't have to be punched out greatly, all right? 2 feet on a 16-foot boat is God's. 1 foot, if you have good speed, 1 foot might be enough because you can turn that 1 foot into a lot. I had a PRO yesterday in my practice. You know, I was talking about practicing my starts yesterday. I was doing it off of a starting line that this guy had set up for some other boats. And I got done. And I said, on my last start, I said, so how far away was I? He goes, about 2 feet. I'm like, yeah, all right. Because that's where you want to be, man, on the freaking line. You want to have good speed at the line or good acceleration, all right? And it really kind of depends on the fleet. What we're going to talk about the styles of starts and the different kinds of starts there are, because you'll have both. I'm going to use the Worlds quite a bit, I think, because it's the last time I was racing a Hobie. And I was down at the pin most of the time. And down there, it was a speed kind of thing, but there was also a fair amount of acceleration, actually, now I think about it. So you need to be able to practice the acceleration. That's what I practice when I'm out practicing. You want to have a clear lee bow, all right? Does anybody not know the term clear lee bow? Pipe in here. This is the audience participation part.
Do you think you could explain that for me, please?
Okay. So on a clear lee bow, what you've got is, ordinarily, you've got a picket fence, and you got all the boats. They're just all lined up right next to each other. And by the way, time out. I want to put a shout out to my homie, Jim Doty. Jim, it's great to see you, buddy. I love you, man. But back to clear lee bow. So you want to have a space to leeward of the bow of the boat. All right. So you do not want a boat close next to you, close aboard. What happens is it's got to do, if you understand the backwind zone of the boats, including multi-hulls. Of course, we're all familiar with the backwind zone to leeward of a boat, but there's a backwind zone to weather of a boat. And what happens is the wind comes in, it hits the sails, and it actually bounces off of the sail and creates some turbulence on the weather side of your boat. Now, it turns out, and I learned this the hard way in Florida a year and a half ago. I lee bowed a guy, and he stayed with me. I thought for sure I could push him out the back, because in monohulls, a lee bow is an awesome position. But on multi-hulls, I have been the weather boat, and I had this guy on my weather quarter, and in both cases, the weather boat held with the leeward boat. They did not get flushed out the back. Try doing that in monohulls, it won't work. But I guess because of our apparent wind, I don't know why, but actually you can stay in a weather quarter position. If you can be this boat in that kind of a position, and you can hold on to it. All right. But in a starting sequence, if you're the weather boat, you want to get that leeward boat. I don't know if you can do this. You want to get some space to leeward of you. And the reason you want to do that, partly for the backwind, but mostly so you have some space that you can utilize to put the pedal down. Because and we're going to get into this in a little bit, but I'll talk about it right now. The first 30 to 45 seconds of any start, maybe longer in other classes, it's a drag race, man. It's just a bloody drag race. It's not about height, although it is a little bit, but it's about you being in the top 10 to 20% of the fleet to get punched out, so that everybody else, the picket fence is back here and you're out there. You don't have to win the damn race in the first 30 or 45 seconds, but you sure as heck can lose it. All right. When you get into big fleets, you still want that 10 or 20%, but it's also about holding your lane. All right. At the national and world level, I remember I've been sailing North Americans now for decades. And in the early going, man, it's either the rollers or the rollees. You're either getting rolled or you're rolling somebody. All right. And in the early going, I was a rollee. And man, I get a great start. And there comes the guy to weather me right over the top. The oxygen masks are dropping out off the boom, and my crew and I are sucking on those things, going, when do I tack? All right, am I clear to tack? Because there's a whole nother line of boats behind that boat, and I can't tack yet. But lately, at least at the national, a little bit at the world level too, I was holding lanes. And then at the national level, I was actually able to start rolling people. And what happens is, what I'm learning is when you get into a roller position, things really start to change. Your options really start to open up. And when you're a rollee, you need to have contingency planning. You need to be able to go, all right, we're going to hold this for 2 minutes, for 4 minutes, for 5 minutes. But what happens if we get rolled? All right. And as you develop in your sailing, you'll gradually become less of a rollee and more of a roller. One of the things I did early on, I'm living in Bend, Oregon, which is ski country. It's high mountain, Mount Bachelor's there, and it's a great place. You have to tow your Hobie 4 hours anywhere if you want to sail it, which is why I'm not in Bend, Oregon anymore. But so during the winter, back in the 80s, I only had 2 channels. I remember I only had one. I had the public broadcasting, which I don't watch that. I had 1 channel. I wasn't too cheap to get cable, so I'm only watching 2 shows. I'm watching Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy every night, and that was it. There was nothing else on that I wanted to watch. I'm clicking the thing off. I'm like, so I was reading. I'm reading sailing books, man. I got a video, I think, on, I'll put a plug in. I got a YouTube channel. It's called Hobie University. And I think I did a video on what books to read. I'm reading these books. Well, the other thing I did this one year, because at this point I'm in Division 4, and at this point I'm a roll E. All right, I'm also ran. I'm fodder, and so this one winter, you know, it's early nights. I'm going to bed early, and I would lay in bed, and every night I would go to bed. I would imagine starting, and I would imagine myself, getting there early. I'd imagine myself getting to the line late. I'd imagine myself attacking somebody. I'd imagine myself defending. I'd imagine getting rolled. I'd imagine rolling. I had all these scenarios that I was going through the entire winter. That spring came, and again, nobody knew me. I mean, they knew me, but as a name on the water, they didn't give me any quarter, you know. I owned that friggin' start line. I mean, by the end of the season, they all knew to stay away from me. The problem was that I had only imagined my starts. I hadn't imagined the rest of the course. And so I'm going up the Upwind Leg, and they're passing me like a freight train, man. They're just going by me, and I'm back in the middle of the fleet again. Actually, I did better that year because why? I had a good start. The next winter, I went back, I imagined my starts, and I imagined the entire race. And I can't say that I, got that much better, but I did get better. And it's a lot like visualization, right? I don't know if anybody, I remember I'm dating myself, but in the 70s or 80s watching Olympics, and they'd have the Winter Olympics, and they'd have the guys, on the doing the downhill, and the guys warming up, they'd be looking like Stevie Wonder, and they'd be doing this, and they're visualizing the course, right? And they're going through all the turns of the course that they've been practicing. It's visualization, right? So this is something that you can do yourself, is visualize while you're sitting at home, while you're going to bed or whatever. All right. So that's a big deal, and it will improve you.
Peter?
Yeah.
Quick question. Taking you back to the start line, you mentioned two things, well, more than two things, but two things that stuck in my mind was you want to punch out, and you also want to maintain a clear lee bow. Sometimes in a tight race, and particularly in better competition, you can't, ideally you'd like to have both, but sometimes you can't do that. So between those two, if you got to choose one, what's more important, punching out or keeping a clear lee bow?
Definitely. Well, yeah, I see that, Jim. I may not be monitoring the chat, but I get that. Friday, by the way, Friday is no pants day. Okay, you guys want to see? Oh, okay. Just checking. I'm not going to show you my boxers with the red hearts on it. So John, to answer your question, I would take the lee bow over punched out anytime. Yeah, because I can drive off into that space after the start. I want to be on the line, but I don't have to be punched out.
Okay, thank you.
And quite often I'm not punched out because I'm afraid I might be OCS. And here's the thing. You want to be OCS, I've heard 1 out of 10 times. I think that's too frequent. Once you get good, maybe once every 50 to 100 times, it's okay to be OCS. But just, don't do it during a North Americans. Don't do it during a Worlds. Do it during your little podunk regatta. All right. If you need to test where the line is, do it on a small regatta. I'm down at their Worlds. I got cut, matter of fact, in going into the finals. I raced 32 races in 2 weeks, and I think I just finally, the last race I raced in, where was it? Oh, in the semis, for qualify in the semis, the gal came ashore, and I go, well, how'd you do? She goes, I got 7th. I go, that's good enough for me. And I took it the way she rigged it. I was so fried. So I'm sitting on the beach watching the finals. And in the first start, there was a black flag. And in a black, we'll talk about that maybe. In a black flag, you are excused from the race. And you get to not sail the race. I remember a sailor out in Fiji. We flew halfway across the world to race in this. He got 2 black flags and he had to sit on the water in the hot sun of Fiji while the rest of us were racing. Bad news, right? So they do at Florida at the Worlds, they do a black flag, but there were so many people over, they couldn't, they from a fairness perspective, they didn't call any boats. So they did a general recall. The second race, another black flag, and this time they nailed about 8 of the people there were about 12 or 13 that were over, and they got about 8 of them. And those guys had a throwout on the very first race of the finals of the Worlds. I mean, that's how aggressive it is. But sometimes, you know, you just got to go with it. I mean, I've done that too. I'm like, well, you know, I'm not going to get shut out here. But if it's a black flag, I would probably be thinking twice on that myself. Because you know what? My attitude, of course, I'm not at the top world level, but my attitude is, hey, a 25th or a 30th out of 56 boats is still better than a 56. So yeah, clearly bow punched out. The other goal of a good start is to be either hiked out or hiked out within 3 seconds of a start. All right. I'm not going to do that quite yet. I'm going to keep talking. I was going to go to video, but I don't think so. I get a lot of people and they wait for the gun to go off. They think that it's illegal to hike out before a start. And I mean to tell you, if you've got the room in the distance, you might as well be in motion. Your crew better be in motion by the time you're going out. All right. By the time you're sheeting on, I mean, and accelerating. And we'll talk about my technique of what we do there. Ask me if I don't cover that either. All right, so that's the goals. There's still more prep that you can do. Earlier, I talked about, you know, sailing upwind, sailing downwind, looking for shifts and geographic stuff, all that. But there's stuff about the line that you need to check out. And you need to be an information gatherer. The first thing I like to do is just note the kind of race committee that I have. Is it Matt Bounds or is it Vern from, you know, from wherever? All right. Matt knows what he's doing. Vern, you know, he's still trying to figure it out. And if your name's Vern, I apologize. I didn't mean that. But so I look at what the skill sets are, because that's gonna put me on notice whether we're gonna be on time, you know, whether there's gonna be multiple horns that inadvertently go off, flags, and you know, they're going up and down, and who knows what. So I want to look at that. I want to evaluate the length of the line. And so I will sail down the line from the committee boat, down the line, and I will time that. And I will do that before my starting sequence. I have found that a lot of lines, about a minute long at the club level, at our club level. Most starting lines, seems like if it's really windy, they set them longer, and if it's not, shorter. But I make a note of, if I've got a 1 minute line, I have just little rules of thumb. If I want to start at the pin and I've got a 1 minute line, I'm usually wanting to be at the committee boat with 1.5 minutes to go. I'm usually wanting to burn half that line into setup. I don't want to do it at 1 minute to go. I prefer myself personally, because I know I can bleed, you know, I can do my scallops. We'll get into that in a little bit. So I'll take into account the number of boats. You know, it's boy, that's a 20 boat line. They ran the 18s or maybe it's the other way around. It's a 5-boat line because they ran it on the 18s and now we got 12 boats in the 16 fleet, or vice versa. Is it a really long line or is it a short line? If it's a short line, you're going to want to pay attention to the part where how you do a start from a dead stop, because you best get a ticket and get in line early. I remember in Fiji, I was on the line. Oh, actually, no. And in Fiji, we were getting to the line. They were getting to the line 2.5 minutes before the start on a black flag. And midway through there, I said, no, man, I don't want to risk going over. So what I did is I became a poacher. And with 1.5 minutes, I would just sail behind that whole picket fence looking for a hole. And when I found a hole, I'd punch into it, take my spot. And now I only had to hold my spot for 1 minute or 1.5 minutes. And it greatly reduced the risk that I was bringing to our team from being OCS on a black flag.
Peter?
Yeah.
You mentioned that rule of thumb. If you got a 1-minute line to sail down, what was it? How long do you have to be before you hit the line at the committee at the weather end?
So if I run the line from committee boat to pin, if it's a 1-minute line, I want to be at the committee boat with 1.5 minutes to go, because I will bleed off the other 1/2 minute. Okay. I'll just figure out a way to do it. And that's if I want to be at the pin. Now, if I want to be at the committee boat, obviously, there's a lot of times a jam up there, and it's kind of a little different situation. But I'm going to talk about that a little bit more too, how I'm going to set up. But that's if I want to be at the pin. But I always just like to know the length of the line anyhow, especially relative to the size of the class. Did I answer that? I hope.
Yeah, you did. Thank you.
All right, cool. I'm going to take into account any current, positive or negative. Negative current, where the current is coming at you, that's great, because now, you can, I've been in currents where I was fully sheeted on and just holding a position. But a positive current will push you OCS, and that one is trickier, and you need to be back from the line and be ready to get further back if necessary. You need to know where the start line is, particularly on the committee boat. All right, is it at the mast? Is it at the shrouds? Or is it back in the cockpit if they're using a sailboat? So it's helpful to know, where it is. I remember hearing a story about Alan Agusa, a great sailor from the 60s and 70s. And Alan, in this one North Americans, they were using some military ship that was god awful long and 50 stories high or whatever. And the story went that Alan, every start, would come in above the line and he would back in to the start line because there was a shadow where nobody could get to, because the start line was halfway up the destroyer or whatever they were using, and nobody could get up there. So Alan would come in and he would back down into that space, and he started there apparently every race. But you need to know where that is, right? And also where the starting line is. Are they using a pole for a start for the pin end, or is it a big round ball? Because it's the coarse side of the ball. And if you got a 2 or 3 foot ball, that gives you an extra 2 or 3 feet, my friend. All right. So you want to make note of all this stuff. A big one is the line bias. And for this, I am going to share my screen. I hope I can do this without screwing this one up. Let me see here. How am I going to do this? Hold on here. Give me a minute. Oh, I didn't do it. Yeah, hold on. I got to find this while I'm doing that. I don't want to share it just yet. I'll take any questions while I'm looking for my I made a diagram for it. There it is. Oh no, not that one. All right, like I said, man, give me a break. I'm getting there. All right. So, so you want to look at, hopefully all are seeing a scalloped, almost a blank screen with a starting line. Armand, I can see you. Nod your head if you can see a start. Yeah, cool. All right. So you want to see if there's line bias. So here is the wind coming down, and they will usually, this would be a square line. All right. It's perpendicular to the wind. Now, what most race committees will do is they will put a port bias into this. They've just found that a small port bias actually ends up being a fairer start. Yeah, the guy at the port end, he has a slight advantage. He has about this much advantage over the guy who starts at the committee boat, but he also doesn't have any rights when he wants to tack and come across. And since the multi-hulls really don't get hurt by a lee bow, by the backwind of a boat to leeward of them, there isn't any penalty there. So you will see a lot of them start off with a port bias where the pin is further upwind. And instead of being at a 45-degree angle to the start line, you're now more at a bigger angle, and you're starting, if that makes sense. You want to look for that bias. The opposite is a starboard bias, where actually the committee boat is upwind, and there now the committee boat is heavily favored because now you have starboard rights and you have advantage. This end is closer as well. You don't see this too often. It will happen even on an experienced committee when there's a wind shift. They will sometimes start in that. You will also, but you will get a starboard bias with a inexperienced committee. And so that's where you want to make note of whether what the line bias is. And that is quite an important one. Oh, I wished I had done that. Dang it. I can't do all of this. All right, let me do this. Let me do this again. I'll show you my notes. Nobody cheat. All right, let me go back here. Oh, rats. All right, let me do this. Oh, no. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Cool. All right. The other thing that you want to do is range the line. And what I mean by ranging the line is, if here's my line, I got the pin set, committee is set, I am going to sail over into this area, and I'm going to sight down the line, and I'm going to try to identify a tree, a house, an outcropping, something that's fixed on the shore. All right. This is really very, very helpful. And now I know where the line is. Now I also have to take into account that when I'm on my Hobie, or excuse me, on my multi-hull approaching the line, I'm about 8 feet behind the bow of my boat. So now I've got to look for a spot that is forward of that spot. And that will become, because if I'm here, but my bows are here, well, then when I sight across that pin, I'm going to see something ahead of where that tree or that pink house is or whatever. All right, I hope that makes sense. Does everybody kind of get that? And they all nodded in unison. Cool. All right. All right. Well, I'm feeling pretty good. So yeah, this is the audience participation part. Any questions about any of that data collection? All right. So going out, you're going to get out there kind of early. You're going to sail upwind. You're going to monitor weather, wind, clouds, current, waves, shifts. You're going to sail downwind, doing the same. Sail by the committee boat. See if you've got, see if they got their act together. And you're going to go into data collection mode. And you're going to start looking at how long the line is, if you're going to rent if it's the pink house or the yellow house, what the line bias is, all of that good stuff. You're going to collect that information. Hopefully you're sharing that with your crew at whatever level your crew is at. Your crew can always help you get better if you're a skipper. And I'm always sharing it with my crew, and we're discussing it, all right? Because the next part is we're putting a plan together. I've collected my information. I may be in sequence, hopefully not. Hopefully I've got a plan before we go into sequence. And so I'm discussing it with my crew. You know, I thought maybe I thought there's some port bias, but it looks pretty, you know, it looks pretty square, and usually square means fair. It will be slightly port biased, but not heavily port biased where I'm going to do a port start or something. You know, and I really like the left side. What did you like? Well, I thought there was more pressure over on the right. Oh, really? Well, blah, blah, blah. You know, we're talking about stuff. I have a term that I coined years and years ago that I like. I use it, and it's called leverage and protect. And leverage means how willing are you to go out on to the side of the course and either be a hero or a zero. And what I mean is, if two boats are really close together and you get a 10-degree wind shift, say a 10-degree lift, the boat to weather will see a slight gain. But if you're separated by hundreds of yards and you get that same 10-degree wind shift, it's boat lengths, lots of boat lengths. And that is called leverage. All right? Is everybody on board with me on that? So that's how much leverage you have on the fleet. And then protect is, which side do I want to protect? All right. If I think the right side is favored, then I'm going to want to protect that. I don't want the fleet to get over there on me, you know, or not. And a lot of that has to do with confidence. And I think we're going to do this in a 2-part series, you guys. We're already an hour into it, and I'm only halfway through. Maybe not. We'll see. Where am I again? Oh yeah, leverage and protect. And it all goes to my confidence level. In talking with my crew and what he or she has seen, how confident do I feel? If I am super confident that the right is favored, then by golly, man, I'm going to fight for that friggin' committee boat. And as soon as the gun goes off, I'm tacking over there, and I am going to leverage that sucker. I'm going all the way out to the lay line. I might even overstand it a bit, and I'm going to come in hard on it and see where I am. If I don't, or ditto with the left, you know, I'm going to start down the pin, hold that lane, go out to the port lay line, blah, blah, blah. And I did that at Worlds on the pin quite a bit, actually. If I'm not quite so confident, I might start hedging my bets. All right, well, you know, I don't want to leverage so much. I think the right is kind of favored. So I think I want to protect that side. So I think I'm going to stay with the fleet. So I'm not going to get much leverage, but I do want to protect that right, because I think there might be a lift that'll come in and we'll gain from that. But if it doesn't come in, I don't want to be hung out to dry. Do people understand that? Are we all good with that? Leverage and protect. All right. You heard it first here. Maybe not. All right. All right. Now, part of the plan. So we have which end of the line, which side of the course we're putting. Which side are we going to go? All the way to the left, all the way to the right? Are we going to play the middle? What we always want to do, and this speaks to John's question earlier, I always want to have a clear lee bow. All right. And early on, and still even to this day, I tend to get to the line early. I just like to defend better than attack. And you just have to, you know, there's not one better than the other, just your own style. But what I find myself doing is carving out that space to lure. I'm constantly carving out that space to lure. Early in the sequence, what I'll do a lot of times is I'll find a boat that I like. It might be a Steve Murray or a Jim Glandon or somebody that I know knows how to start. That's not a tourist and they're not a cowboy. All right. And I know that they are good. And I will sail with them all the way down the line. Wherever they go, I'm going with them. And I'm not going to let anybody get in between us and them. I'm going to keep a half or a quarter of a boat length between us and them. And then in that last minute, I'm going to try to gap off. All right. If I'm this boat, I'm going to try to gap off and see if I can get a little bit of space to leeward of me from that other boat. But in the first, during that run into the start, I'm just mimicking them. I'm not attacking them. I'm not threatening them. This is all organized, you guys. You want to have good starters around you, all right? If you have boat speed, because they know how to start, and all you're trying to do is the three of you just to get out with it. You can pick the other two guys or whatever around you off on the downwind or somewhere else on the course. That just reminded me of something that's not in my notes. I'll also point out. You can have 56 boats on the course like they did at Worlds. You can have 700 boats out there, and it's all the same. It's a 3-boat start. There's only 3 boats. That's you, the boat to leeward, and the boat to windward. And that's it. All right? Just reduce it down, you guys. Keep it simple. There's not 56 boats. It's just 3 boats. You only have to beat 2 out of the 3. All right? So you've already got a 33% chance. All right? All right. But you always want that clear leeward bow. Now, what you don't want to do, and you likely will do in the early going, if you're anything like I am, you'll get so excited that you have this clear lee bow that you're going to pull the trigger too soon and you'll eat it all up. And at the last minute, you go, oh shit, we're going to be over early. You'll dip down and eat up all that space you worked hard for. All right. So just relax. I'm going to get into that here in a little bit too about the setup for that. Do not eat up your clear lee bow in the 10 seconds before the start and in the 30 to 45 seconds after the start. Hold your lane. It's okay to go into what I call speed mode, where instead of you have the weather tail fluttering, to have them both laid down. All right, let me do that. Let me see here. Instead of having the weather tail fluttering, you just lay them both down. That's okay. Because again, it's a drag race, right? You're trying to get out there. I call that speed mode. So you get into speed mode for the first 30 to 45 seconds, get that extra foot or 2 punch out that you're looking for. Then if you want, you can start going back into regular mode as you want, okay? Okay, questions so far? Okay. How far do I go here? All right, I guess we'll keep going and we'll just see how long this takes. I don't like this going much beyond an hour and a half, but we'll see. I was in a Starboard Portal U.S. Sailing seminar on big boat tactics, because I run tactics for a big boat out here in Puget Sound. And so I'm just interested in tactics. And this guy was a dinghy sailor, and he was talking about plays. Yeah, well, we have all these different plays. I'm like, are you calling them in from the sideline or what? I had never heard that term before. But anyhow, we're going to talk about different plays you can execute at the start. The standard approach is what we call the standard starboard approach. This is where you come in from the, and I'm going to, let me see here. I'm going to, how do I do this? Hold on here. I'm going to try. I need 3 screens, you guys. That's all there is to it. All right. So this is the standard approach. And I'm hoping, yeah, there you go. I can do this. Cool. All right. And so the standard is to come off an extension of the starboard ley line, the starboard extension of the ley line. You take the start line. You take the start line and just extend it out as long. And this is in club racing, actually at the world level, national level, this is the setup area here. It's not down here. All right. You're going to get hosed down there. Why? Because we're all up here and you're going to have to sail through our gas to get up there and you'll never make it. You'll be late. All right. So, and it's not up here usually. At North Americans this year, sometimes it was, but most of the time it's just a starboard extension of the line. All right. And this is, and so let me see here. And this is what we're going to do. 80% of our fleet racing is on a starboard approach. So I'll do as much as 10 to 20% port starts in my fleet. I don't care, man, but for me, I can save one star. If I think the right side's favored, and if I think that it's a little bias, I'll just go ahead and I'll just start over there. We have smaller fleets though in Division 4. It really depends on the level of sailing too, because you may end up eating a lot of sterns. So be careful of that. But in big fleets, you're always doing a starboard approach. I've seen, I think, 2 port starts on big fleets, and it worked. And it paid off because there was a hard running current, negative adverse current running down, and it was, I think, which way was it? Yeah, it was coming in this way, I think. And so the boat on port was going right into the teeth of it, whereas everybody else on starboard were getting set down, and the guy was able to cross. But there was strong current. Most of the time, though, in big fleets, you're not doing the other one, which is a port start. However, I will say, if you can pull off a port start, your chances of winning that regatta just went up 5-fold, because you are in clear air, no picket fence, you saved yourself 1 tack, you got a lot of things going for you, but it's hard to pull off. On the starboard, I will do the pin end if I think that the left side is favored, or if there's a heavy port bias. I remember seeing in the Melges 24 fleet, a really good a boat started at the pin. It was so heavily biased. He started, and within 10 seconds after the start, he tacked and crossed the entire fleet. So that's a starboard start, but really it's a port start. That's where there's such a heavy bias. I'll go down to the port, I'll go down to the boat end when the right side is heavily favored, or in the few instances where there's a starboard bias. In this situation, you can expect this end to be very crowded, and you have to evaluate if you want the boat, or maybe you just come down here a ways, a third of the way down the line. I will typically divide the line up into thirds. I will do, the leeward third, the boat third, and the middle third. And you don't have to be at each end of the line. I will do the middle when I don't have a lot of confidence on what's going on, or when I think there might be what's called a midline sag. You'll see this in big boats. In big fleets, where you'll get 50 or 60 boats, and the fleet in the middle they're gauging off of the next boat. The next boat's gauging off the next boat, the next boat off the next, and on and on. And by the time you get to the middle, there's a big sag. And so you can punch out real easily with a midline start in a big fleet if you suspect there might be a midline sag. All right. And we talked about the port start. Other types of starts is the traditional scalloping start. And this is what takes practice, because what's happening is you're coming down to gain some separation between you and the line, and then you come back up because you want to kill some time off. All right, and then you come back down to get closer to the line and also gap off from the line. But now you're a little too early, and so you come back up. And every time you come back up, you're measuring how much time to bleed off. This weather, sometimes you'll go dead into the wind maybe, and then right before you lose way on, come back off. But what you're doing is you're really using that as a time waster. You're coming up to gauge how much time you need to lose. And then you come back down again to get into position to gap off from the line, so you have a little bit of runway. And yeah.
I'm sorry. Are you? I can't see the diagram. I just see your notes.
Oh crap! You guys are. Oh shit! There.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Oh wow. Oh, now you know my notes. Well, hopefully, anyhow. So. Thank you, John. So what happens in the traditional is we're scalloping. We're staging off the starboard extension of the line. Remember, we've already ranged off of it over here. We're setting up over here. And, you know, if I want to be at the committee boat, I'm maybe, 2 minutes away from here, whatever. And this is where practice comes in. And when I'm going downwind, I'm just gapping off. And how far down I go depends on how far of gap off, how much runway I want from the start line. If there's a bunch of boats over here, I might not go all the way down here. I might cut it off and come back up. If everybody is back here, then I might want to come down and just keep a clear lee bow if I'm looking for the pin, for instance. If I'm looking for the boat, I might stay up higher and not come down as low. So how far you come down really depends on where you want to start and where the fleet is. And then when you feather back up, I'm wasting time. I'm killing time. And how far up and how long I stay up really depends on whether I'm ahead of schedule, behind schedule, or on schedule with the start. Okay? And so I might be ahead of schedule here. And so I might stay in this, in kind of luffing for an extended period of time. And then all of a sudden, I see Johnny Hogue coming in, and he's getting ready to hook my transom. And we'll talk about that maybe later. Oh crap. And that's where I'm going to peel off. And this is where good crew works, because your crew has to be in sync with you. And I wish I had boats in position to show you, but when I'm close hauled, I need my crew to sheet in. And then as I'm starting to peel off here, I need my crew to be letting that jib out so I can gain speed. I come down. Meanwhile, maybe the boat behind me, he couldn't hook me, and he'll come up. So then, boom, I can come up and kill some time off. And so it's just this. It's a dance, really, and that we go through. All right, in relation to the boat. And maybe I don't want to be at the pin. So I let 1 or 2 boats go by. And then when the third boat goes by, maybe that's Glandon, okay, 2 boats is fine. Those 2 other guys, they're hot shots. I don't want to get tangled with them because I might be OCS. All right, there's Glandon, cool, we'll go with him. And so boom, I let Jim go. And now I'm just doing this little dance down there. And then and all the time now, because I'm a defender, I get there early typically. and I'm comfortable with that because that's what I've practiced. That's not necessarily you, and you don't have to do it this way. But because I am, I'm always looking for somebody who might try to hook me, who might try to get right to lure it on me and then say, bring it up, bring it up, bring it up, right? And so I'm always looking at that. As soon as I see that attack, I'm in my down mode, and I've gone way down here sometimes, and I'm looking the guy, I'm looking the skipper when I'm coming down. I'm going, hey, buddy, I'm ready to go to Venezuela if you are. You know, all right, and oh, okay, I get it. I mean, I look him dead in the eye. I'm not kidding. All right, I want to send him the message so that he will cooperate because I want to be in control of that situation. Let me take a peek at my notes. Yeah. Yeah, and look at. Does anybody, I can't see all, if anybody doesn't know what I mean by getting hooked, I mean, we're all hooked on Hobie Cat or on multi-hull sailing. I get that. But does anybody know, need me to define what getting hooked is on the start line? Okay. All right. So that's a bad thing. What else do I got here? Okay. So this kind of start is used almost predominantly in fleet racing locally, I think, largely because the lines are longer than they need to be, and the sailors aren't as confident sailing at slow speeds and accelerating. So I see this kind of a start a lot more often. Let me see here. There is the dead stop. Yeah, there is also the start where you get here with 1.5 to 2.5 minutes to go, and just hang out. And you're accelerating from a dead stop. At the Worlds, I was doing the other kind of start. I was doing what's called a dip start, and I was hanging out above the committee boat, observing what they were doing. And I was coming down here, and I was starting my approach with 3.5 minutes before the start. Now, understand, it was a long line. I mean, you know, the pin's over here somewhere. And so I was coming down 3.5 minutes because I wanted the pin. And so if you're going to be at the pin, you best lead the fleet to the pin. Now, they're going to try to push you, and that's where you have to get good so you can control them. For the most part, I had a couple guys own me, but other than that, I did all right. The dip start also works. Okay. It also works really good with adverse current. When the current is running down the page, you can drop in on a dip start. And what's cool about it is you've got clear air and you're gassing everybody who's trying a traditional start. Everybody thinks that you have to be in the starting box for the 5 minutes before a start. That's not always true. There are flags that say that, but in a blue flag start, whether you're using the P flag, you can do a dip start just fine. Thank you. Let me see here. Okay, the dip start, yeah, it's a big fleece and it's also for the clear. Good. Port start, again, it's not as bad as everybody thinks. I don't think. Not in fleet racing, in big boat racing. Excuse me, I should characterize that. In small fleet racing, port starts are okay. I think if you know what you're doing, and you can pull them off. You know. If you got a big fleet, though, you might be eating a lot of transoms, so you best be ready for that and decide how bad you really want that right side. All right. I think, should I show you some video? I'm thinking of doing that before I get to the meat of it. I mean, this isn't even the meat of it yet. This is all just the good stuff. Let's keep going. All right. One thing, as you may have noticed, that I do. Oops, that's right. I gotta stop sharing. You'll have my notes, and then you'll go, well, I don't have to listen to that guy. one thing that you'll want to do is get into a schedule, get into a rhythm, find a routine. And what I did early on is I established a pattern, a routine. And I did that for every start for 2 to 3 seasons before I really got comfortable with it. And I'm going to share with you my schedule. It doesn't have to be your schedule. There's no magic to this at all. This is just what I came up with. All right. But what it did allow me to do is it allowed me to gain great confidence, because as I did it over and over and over, I could figure out if I was ahead of schedule or behind schedule, and I could adjust accordingly. And that's when I started owning the start line. And that's when my entire local fleet, here's the other thing, is the rich get richer. Because once the fleet understood that I owned the starting line, they didn't want to mess with me. And then it became really easy to start. All right. So what I would typically do, I would sail in a Hobie 16, and you can do this for any boat. And they would start usually the 17s ahead of me. I would follow the 17s into the start. And I wouldn't mess with them. I didn't want to do that. But, I'd go through the line with about, at 4:30, I'd sail through the line, kind of do my final approach, see if there's any wind shift or anything like that I need to be aware of, or maybe they moved the pin and I missed it. And then usually at about, I'd wait for the gun to go off, and so I'd tack, and then I would return to the starboard extension of the line. And so let me get back to sharing my screen again. Okay, do that. There's those damn notes again. Oh, let me pull this guy over here. And so I would go by the committee boat at, 4.5. The 17s would be out racing out here. I would just follow them in. I'd go out, maybe it would be 20 seconds. I can't really remember anymore, because I don't really do it that much anymore, because I'm so confident I've got it all figured out. At least I think I do. Yeah, usually at about 4 minutes, I'll tack, I'll come on over, and now I'll drop down. And I always make sure that I'm right about here with 2.5 minutes to go. I want to be at the starboard extension of the line, right? I don't want to be out here in Bemidji, because I'll never make it to the line in time, but I want to be out here somewhere where I can make it to the line. And for me personally, 2.5 minutes, even to this day, is it's a milestone. I want it. That's when I jibe. I jibe at 2.5 minutes. And to this day, you will see me jibing at 2.5 minutes. And now I'm on final approach, okay? And can someone answer for me? Oh, I asked this question in an earlier clinic, I remember. Why do pilots, when they're getting ready to, Dodie can answer this. Dodie's a pilot. So Jim, how come when pilots are coming in for a landing, they're saying, yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are on final approach? Why does it sound so sinister, this final approach? Why can't you guys just say, yes, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be landing in another few minutes, and then we'll be taking off again about an hour later? This final approach stuff really bothers me. But all right, but I digress. And so where was I? I lost my train of, oh yeah, 2.5 minutes, I've jibed over, and now I'm doing my scallops according to the plan. And in that first season, you're going to find out what your schedule is. You might get burned the first few regattas because you were ahead of schedule, or you thought you were on schedule, but actually you were behind, or your OCS. And that is all positive feedback that you then take to the next start. And if you're getting in 6 or 7 starts, 8 starts a weekend, that's pretty quick feedback. If you're doing a different start every time, you have no idea where you are. All right. When I was at Worlds, man, I was doing the same start every time. I will admit it was a different start, because I wasn't used to starting above the committee boat, dipping down with 3.5 minutes to go. So I did have to adapt, but it didn't take me long. I mean, to tell you, it's a pretty quick learning curve. At 2 minutes, this is pretty important too. At 2 minutes, I will usually remind myself to take a couple of deep breaths. And this is a physiological thing because I get amped up at the start. And by taking 2 deep breaths, it will physiologically, physically calm me down. It's been proven. And so I'll go, and boom, I'm ready now for my final approach. All right? That's really, really helpful. And then the last, like I said, minute and a half, 2.5 minutes, you're pretty much, there aren't any more wind shifts. You're at the last minute to 2 minutes, you are where you are, and you just have to execute your plan in terms of what your crew and you decided. Now, it's okay to change the plan. All of a sudden, a wind shift comes in, and you might tell your crew while you're scalping, change of plans. I want to start the committee boat and blah, blah, blah. And now you might, whatever, make those adjustments. So but generally speaking, you want to execute the plan that you're started with. Okay. What else do I got here? Oh, let me unshare. Now I think, so get a routine and stay with it if you can. All right. All right. Now I want to share some video with you. We'll see how this goes. Let me see. How am I going to do this? Damn it. I got to figure this part out. All right. And give me a minute, and I'm going to pull up my video that I want. And let me see. Yeah, here we go. So I'm going to put in a, oh, I got to stop that, I think. Oh, I got to do, where's the volume? And I'll find that in a little bit here. There it is. All right. Let me share this puppy with you. So I'll put in a plug. I've got some videos out on a YouTube channel. It's called, what the heck is that? And it's called Hobie University. This one's called Starts and Marks. Oh yeah. Oh, do I want to do this one? Yeah, sure. Let's watch some video. This is Laura Sullivan and I at the 2014 Hobie Worlds in Australia. I didn't do that well there. Oh, come on. Oh, great. God. We didn't do that well, and you'll see in this video part of the reason why. But in any case, this is here we're on port jibe coming down onto the starboard extension of the ley line. There's the committee boat in the background, and I'm waiting for 2.5 minutes. Laura's looking at her watch. She's going to give me 2.5 minutes, and you can probably pretty much figure that we're at about 2.5 minutes right about now. That's just me. All right. Now there's 56 boats, and I'm probably down at the pin, judging by all those boats behind me. And we're going to play the last little bit of this over and over a few times. But basically, I'm hanging out here. Things are pretty relaxed. I'm taking a couple of deep breaths, telling Laura to take a couple of deep breaths. Life is good. Nobody's around me. There's a few boats. Oh, there's a committee boat on the right. I just noticed that. I'm dipping down on this one. All right, I didn't know that. Cool. All right. So now I'm dropping down into the starting box. And because I have clear air, I like it above there. Boom, I'm in the starting box. Now I haven't timed it, but yeah, maybe I might have 1.5 minutes to go now. I'm gapping off a little bit. All right, I'm dropping down, passing those goats. I'm trying to get down to the pin, and working my way down. And just passing boats along. It's all organized, you guys. Try not to get into a boat on boat situation. All right, it's all good. Gonna let this guy pass me. That's cool. He's fine. And now he's too close for a start, but we're not near the start yet. But he might be. Yeah, he's still too close. I don't know. Now I'm going to try to drive over the top of him. I don't like my position because I'm too close. I'm driving over the top of him, and I'm going to drop down another lane. All right. Now, there's going to be a blue boat to weather on me. Keep an eye on him. Now I'm letting 55 go by because I was looking forward. I'm seeing him out of the corner of my eye. Now there's this blue boat over on the what I'm seeing is the left side of the screen. And he's going to waste me in this start. I'm setting up. I hook in. I forgot to mention, in that routine, we'll talk about this in a little bit, I'm going to hook in and have my crew hooked in the last minute of the start, because I hooked in Mexico one time, had a perfect start at the committee boat. It was the unfavored end of the line, but I don't care at that point. And I went to trap out, and I had caught and unhooked, and man overboard, race over. So I always wait till the last minute, but within a minute, I will hook in. Let me see if I can get this going again. How do I? Oh, there. All right. And so we're all just kind of coming down, and drove over the top of him, coming down, looking for a spot. I'm up on the line, but I think there's still somebody above me. Looking behind, how am I doing? Good. All right. I steer overhand. I really like it for trapping out. Letting 42 go by. I'm going to try to gap off of him. And I'll explain to you what Laura's doing. I'm giving her instructions. I think there's a blue boat that comes over the top of me in this one, I think. Get winding up. Here we go. Starts on. All right. So I'm a little late. That's a lot better start than I thought it was. But I don't know who's to leeward, so I can't say for sure. All right. But, oh, the general recall. Yeah. All right. So we're going to go through this again. Here I am on the starboard approach. Not the starboard approach, excuse me. I'm going out onto the starboard extension of the ley line on port jibe. Gee, I wonder what time it must be now in the sequence. Oh yeah, 2.5 minutes. There, I'm just killing time now. My main is completely loose. I got the jib on. I don't know. We're just sailing under the jib, just limping along. No big deal. Plenty of time. And what I do is I'm going to sheet that. I'm going to come over the top of this guy. And now I'm going to drop back down. I'm going to gap off. I'm not at the committee boat yet. There's a committee boat. And that's how much gap I've got. So I'm really, well, I don't know where I am, actually, where a pin is. Yeah, this is where the blue boat wastes me. I bet you that's 55 again. Darn him. I bet you that's him. I get a lousy start in this, and you'll get a chance to see it. I kind of, and so we're just accelerating and decelerating in here. And what I'm going to try to do, what I do now is I look for a hole, a gap in the line, and I want to be at the weather end of that gap and hold the other boats up if I can. All right. Again, we're just killing time here, letting a few boats go by, because at that point in my career, I didn't have the confidence to get down there and down at the pin and play with the big boys. I think that's that blue boat. I know it's a blue boat that wastes me. I bet you it's that boat to the left there that ends up. Yeah, you see, we're starting to ramp up. but we're not trapped in yet. There's Laura, she's going into her trapeze. All right. I'm getting down to the pin. I'm past these guys, looking for a hole, looking for a good spot. Here I'm kind of more of attacking than I am actually defending, because I'm looking for a spot where I want to start. You can see me play with that traveler. I don't know if you saw that. I'm going to be hooking in if I'm not already hooked in. I think I am hooked in already. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be number 54 over here on the left. See that guy? He's gapped off. Boom. And look what happens. This pains me greatly. Oh, stop it. Stop. I can't take it anymore. All right. Already. Jeez. God. Let me pull the pins out of myself, for crying out loud. All right. So that was so that that kind of gives you a little bit of a walkthrough out of worlds anyhow, of accelerating. The one thing, let me see here, where am I? Let me see, Stacy. Okay, so I want to now show you a different video. Any questions on any of it, what I was describing, any of the play-by-play? Okay, let me find another video for you. It is that one.
Peter, that was great. Thanks for sharing that. That video and critiquing yourself was awesome. Thank you.
I'm glad it was good for you. Yeah, I'm glad it was better for you than it was for me. If I could have won this start, I'd have felt a lot better about it. Thank you very much. But anyhow, all right. So I did this video. Oh God, VLC decided to upload or something. I don't know what they got going. Here we go. All right. So what I did was, now I'm out at Silshore, local waters here in Seattle, and I'm gonna let this run for a while I'm talking. This is not the start. And let me advance this a little bit. Okay, so now when you're starting from a start, and this works really good. This is what I'm really excited to share with you guys. You steer with your sails, all right? And I even annotate this. This video is uploaded to Hobie University on YouTube, and so you can look at this again. But it's all about steering with my sails. And so now this is not trapping conditions. Ordinarily, these trap wires we would hook in the last minute before the start. So you just have to add that to everything else. But here's the deal. When I'm setting up, I'm right now, I think I'm just kind of killing it. Yeah, I've got no way on, all right? I just stopped, I'm parked, having a sandwich, whatever. I'm not really having a sandwich. What I do is I sheet off to the downwind mode. And so I want my boom, this is a little past that. That's okay too, close counts. But I want my boom to be about, parallel with the horizon. I just want it in the downwind mode. And now I have it cleated off, and I got a hold of the main traveler. Because the main traveler is 2-to-1, and this main sheet is 6-to-1. And while I'm except for the last 6 or 7 seconds, I can react a lot faster than anybody else can with twisting my sails. Because remember, when I'm scalloping, most of the time I'm off of the wind anyhow, and having a lot of twist isn't a bad deal. And then I've got a vocabulary I use with my crew. And I'll just say on, and on means sheet it all the way on, build speed. Off, I have off or kill, and that means just blow it, let it luff. And then I also have soft set, and that's my third one. This one is somewhere between off and soft set. And the soft set is where I really don't want any power in the jib. I just want to blow my bows down a little bit, okay? So I'm just going to have it in enough so the wind can blow the bows down. Now, when I want to go up, or when I want to get closer to the line, I'm going to call for on. My jib is going to come in, and that little sail will help me go forward. I will probably travel up, and my big mainsail, as twisted off as it is, will still get a little bit of power in it, and I'm going to be able to inch up at a slow speed with both when I'm in the on mode with my traveler all the way up. If I want to go down, maybe because guy's getting, I just want to get away from the line, or he wants to hook me, I might tell him on, trim for speed, and I am going to gap, and I'm going to travel down. And now the jib is driving it. The wind's going to blow the bows down. And as it blows the bows down, the main is going to fill and start to accelerate. And that will help me to a scallop. Okay? Then if I want to speed, if I want to come up, but I don't want to go forward, I just bring the main in. And the main will and then I might steer up a little bit, and the main will draw, and I don't bring the jib in, and the boat will feather up on its own. It's steering with the sail. So if you want to feather up, you sheet the main on. If you want to feather down, you sheet the jib on. If you want to go forward, you sheet them both on. If you want to go slow down, you let them both go out. It's a pretty simple formula. It takes practice though. Now, you'll also notice in this, right now, I've got my rudders all the way over here, punched, all right? Something else I learned, Ken Marshak, a Hobie 18 sailor who has more North Americans than any one person should have. He taught me this, and that is that if you have your rudders all the way over, you present less of your rudder to, let me put it a different way. If you have your rudders straight, now there's more resistance to leeward motion. So because I have less rudder showing, my boat is more prone to slipping sideways towards the boat to leeward of me. And remember, I'm trying to gap off. Now this is just one boat, there's not another boat. But if it was a start, there'd be another boat, you'd be seeing the transom down here somewhere or whatever. Maybe if I'm smart, you'd be off screen, right? But if he's really close aboard, then I really want to gap off, because if you can see him in here, he's too close aboard. And now I want to gap off. So what am I going to do? I'm going to straighten my rudders. I'm going to bring the main up, all right? And that's going to help me go climb to weather. When I get gapped off enough, I'm going to let my main off, and I'll probably pull on the rudders a little bit so I get my bows back down. Or I might just ask my crew to just sheet on the jib while I let the main out to blow my bows off. And that way I can keep my rudders completely straight through the whole process, and I can gap off. And now you'll also notice, this is a big deal. This is the front of the mast, right? Where my jib halyard is, all right? If you sail a 16, if you don't, take my word for it. This is the front of the mast. You can see that the mast is inversely rotated. There is no power in that plan whatsoever. And what you're going to see happen is in the last, well, for me, at 20 seconds, I have the downhaul off right now. And at 20 seconds, because the downhaul also powers it up. And when I'm only 1 to 2 boat lengths from the line, I don't want any power. So with 20 seconds left, I'm going to ask my crew to put the downhaul on. Sometimes I might wait till 15 seconds, but usually, depending on the start, with 1 minute left, I'll say, put downhaul on at 20 seconds, and I'll just prep him or her right then and there. And then my crew, if he's good crew, is giving me time. A good crew will also give you a distance to the line, and not perpendicular to the line, but the amount that you have to sail to get to the line. So you might say, 8 seconds boat length, which is music to my ears. 12 seconds boat length and a half. And at that point, I'm singing because I know I own this start. And so, And so at 20 seconds, downhaul will come on. At 8 seconds, he's gonna, and now I'm going to 7 seconds, maybe to 7 or 8 seconds. He's going to sheet on the jib. I'm going to travel up, and now I only have this little bit of 6-to-1 to sheet on instead of being center traveled with my main out here and 50 million yards of main sheet that I've got to travel in. Okay, so that's the description. Let's see how it plays out. Hopefully it works. Just hanging here. He's giving me time. I'm asking him for a beer. I got it. I kind of got it. Yeah, we're not really moving. We're moving a little bit, not much. You do. Now you see I've traveled up to head up to weather. I've asked him to bring it on, to blow the bows down. I got up a little too close. So now, there we go. Now we're back into kill mode. Just laying low, killing time. All right, still working the travelers I need to. That's a little too tight for me, but in a kill mode. He's so now you can see the bubbles in the water. We are moving forward, and you really do need to move forward to get some flow. Now we're moving back, so you can do that. I've asked him to kill it. There we go. And you will at some time. Oh, the other thing that I want to tell you is by being able to. I can never get so close to the wind. By having my main sheeted off this far, even when I feather up, I have, but it's really hard for me to get so close hauled, so dead into the wind that I have to backwind something where have you ever gotten into a start where 45 seconds before the start, you're like, oh crap, and you have to backwind everything, and you're in backwind mode while everybody else is sheeting on, and it's not pretty. With my main sheeted off this much, I have to really try to get into that kind of a backwind mode. It's just protection. And if somebody hooks me and says, bring it up, oh, okay, fine. I throw my rudders over. I travel up my main. I mean, what more do you need, right? And so it's really good insurance that way. And I want a little power to come forward again, get a little flow over my rudders. All right. Yeah, see, I'm working that traveler just on and off. And that's good. Now my rudders are straight here. There's my rudders. Got them straight. I'm coming a little forward now. I brought the jib on in maybe a soft set, and I'm gaining now. It's fully on. I'm gaining a little more speed. Let's see if I'm going to move the main and travel the main up. I want to move forward, get closer to the line. I'm ramping up. I've sheeted on, and boom, it's off. And that was a start. So it was really that simple. All right, let's go through that. Let me show you that ramp up again. All right, and so this is gonna be a gradual ramp up. We're just gonna start. He brought on there. He's bringing on the downhaul. So there's 20 seconds. Now we're bringing that on. You can pretty much guarantee now 8 seconds to go. Or maybe not. I haven't traveled up yet. Maybe I just needed him to. And depending on where I am on the line, because I practice this, I know what my timing is, and now, boom, I'm ready to roll. And if we're in a trapping conditions, I have sometimes it's a shorter, we're laughing about it. Joe was great, man. And boom, we'll try it again, all right? And so what I can do is when it's trapping conditions, he's sheeting on as he is going out on the wire. He's not doing it from the trampoline. He's doing it on the way out, and he's getting it to within just this much maybe, and he's getting the last bit on the from the wire with his legs. But you can do that. You can get it in that. Any crew can get it in that close just by going out. Just one hand on the handle, one hand on the sheet, and out you go. And of course, I'm doing the same. I'm traveling up and I'm sheeting on as I go out, and I'm timing all of that. All right. Any questions? Okie doke. Let's see if we do another one of these. By the way, what's really cool about one boat starts is you nail just about all of them. So it's a real confidence builder because there's no other boats around. We will go up against a buoy and pretend it's the committee boat or pretend it's the pin, and we'll practice off of that. And so now I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Let me fast forward here. All right, I'm getting some time from him. That might have been, oh, we're off now. I want to kill it. All right, downhaul's coming on. 20 seconds to go. And getting ready. He's counting down. 12, 11. Seats on at 7, maybe. I'm holding out. Oh, he's trapping in. Got it. Sorry, he's just getting hooked in. I said 20 seconds there. It's usually within a minute. Keep the bows down in that last final approach, you guys. You do not want to get stalled out. It's that sinking feeling as you watch it. And now you want to go through the gears. That was a pretty good one. Let's go through that again. Is you want the bows down in those last 20 seconds or so, because you cannot recover. All right? Downhaul comes on. I actually do it at 20, not 30. But you've got the last 30 seconds. You cannot have the bows up. You've got to have them down. Now you're going to trap in. I usually do that within a minute. So, and now I've got him powering up my jib. I'm getting a little bit of a ramp up there. Now I'm starting to ramp up. Look what's going on with the acceleration, and we're going through the gear. First, second, third, fourth gear. All right. And yeah, now I'm asking him to do the final trim. Boom. It was a little loose on that, if you saw that. Now look how loose this, you'll see this, the foot of this jib. Well, once he gets going, you'll see it flutter a little bit. And then once he does the final set, it's firm. And if you're seeing the foot of your jib flutter, it's probably too loose. And so when he first goes out, yeah, you can see it fluttering there. All right, now he's going to work on it. Boom. No fluttering. It's tight. And we're up to speed. Single trap. Okay? And that, my friends, is that's the technique that I discovered some time ago. And it works great. It means sailing with your sails, steering with your sails. And the more you can keep your rudders straight, it's even better. I used to have my rudders parts kind of pushed all the way over to try to push my bows up, so to speak. But I don't do that anymore. It takes a finer touch. What's also really cool, sailing at slow speed gets you more attuned to the flow over your rudders. And when you're sailing at speed, that is crucial. I feel like I have really elevated my sailing when I became aware of the flow over my rudders while sailing. And initially you're just kind of consciously aware of it. And eventually it's just a second nature. And you're just, because those rudders are your drag, they're your rudder. I mean, the rudders are your brakes, right? And so the less you can brake, the better. Oh, this went on a lot longer than I thought. I appreciate you sticking around. All right, I'm going to keep going. You've come this far. You can quit if you want. After the start, the first 30 to 45 seconds is critical. This is the drag race. All right. It is bow down. Again, do not eat up all that good hard space to leeward of your boat that you worked on. If it's just a little bit, you're going to have to maintain your lane. You're going to have to hold your lane. You don't want to get sucked into that guy. But if you've got a lot of it, then lay those tails down, man, and go into speed mode and see if you can punch out and get that extra foot or two. Because a foot or two in the first 30 seconds will translate into 4 or 5 boat lengths or more at the weather mark. Let me see here. Yeah, the goal is just to be in the top 20% of the fleet. You're not trying to win the start, all right? And that goes into your planning. Well, let's get the committee boat. I mean, there are times when I fought tooth and nail for the committee boat, but there's a lot more times when I'm willing to give that to somebody else, because there's only one person who's going to win the pin or win the boat. And there's going to be about 4 or 5 people who are going to get wasted in the process. And you got to ask yourself, do you want to risk being one of those 4 or 5 to be the one that wins? Is it worth it? It might be in the regatta for you. You know, when it is, then you go for it. Hold your lane. This is critical to executing your plan. Remember, before the start, you and your crew are talking about it. You say, yeah, we're going to go a third up the way. We're going to hold starboard for a third of the way, wait for everything to clear out, and then we're going to tack over. And we're going to go to the starboard ley line or whatever, right? Well, holding your lane is pretty critical to that, because if you get rolled right off the start, you're tacking immediately, and now you best have a plan B. Do we just tack back on the starboard, clear our air, and tack back? Do we go all the way out to the port ley line? Do we want to, what are we going to do here? And this gets into tactics for the first leg, which we might just do next week. I don't know. We might, actually. It's not a bad one, the tactics for the first leg. And all right, so I'm going to keep going here. Hold your lane, and if it's trapping conditions, bonus hike. All right. I win so many trapping races, certainly at the fleet level. At the national and world level, not so much anymore, or not so much, because I'm bonus hiking pretty much all the time. But I see most people, they got their feet on the boat, and they're bent at their waist, and they're going along for the ride. I'm somebody, I like a nice flat abdomen, anyhow. So man, I trap out flat, and maybe we'll talk about that in another clinic too. And I'm right next to my crew. One weight is a lot lighter than 2 different ones. So I'm right next to my crew. She is just trapeze wise, she's just a little bit, her trap is just a little bit lower than mine. And I am, and when I trap out, I'm in an aggressive mode, looking over her, leaning forward into her body, because it's an aggressive mode. And we'll talk about some more about that maybe. Let me see. Oh, here. Rules of the start. Yeah, sorry, Grant. That's for another one. Yeah, secret. Oh, Jody's gone. I shared it, and I think he left. It's too bad. Here's Glendon asking. I'll answer questions. Sorry. Jim's asking, does the 2.5 minutes jibe work for the boat start or the pin start? It works for all of them. It just depends on where you jibe on that starboard ley line. If I'm looking for the pin, I have to take into account wind strength, water, fleet, location, all of that. And if I'm going for the pin, I might jibe sooner than if I'm going for the boat. But typically, when I'm going for the boat, I'm usually getting, myself personally, I'm getting there early. I'm doing this parking stop, this accelerated start that I just showed you, because I want to get there early, get my spot, and nobody's going to move, because I mean, I'm not going anywhere. Bring it up, bring it up. I don't have any way on. Where am I going to go? I mean, oh, Jim was called. He had to go. He missed it, I think. He might have missed it. Too bad. I'll share it with him. Maybe. Okay. So after the start, I want you guys bonus hike, man. It's a drag race. And man, you are leaning. You are feeling the pressure on your trapeze harness. And if your harness is that loose, tighten it up, all right? Because you want to be pulling the boat down. Because at least on on most catamarans, crew weight is pretty close to boat weight. Sometimes it's more than. So the crew weight makes a huge difference. So pull it down. Okay, let's talk real quick about alternative plans and penalties. And then I'm gonna wrap it up with a quick summary and we'll be out of here. All right, so you gotta have alternative plans. Just remember that you go off the visual signal. So even though you heard the horn 3 seconds after the flag, it's off the flag, right? I'm going to share with you the flags. Let's discuss those briefly. Let's go here and let me see if I can find them. Where is it? Oops, sorry about that. Let's bring flags. Where is it? There we go. Okay. I think we all know that one. And most of us hate that one. They're now going to a red and white checkered one. It's called the U flag, the uniform flag, which is similar to a black flag. Let's go through these. Preparatory start, that's cool. These two guys are pretty much the same. This one's the around the ends rule, where if you're in that triangle that's bounded by the committee boat. Are you guys seeing the flags?
No.
Hold on. No. I got to do this. Shit, where am I? Where? I lost my video. There we go. Let me share that. Well, oh, I just lost that too. All right, let me go, but let me do this again. Sorry. There. Are you seeing flags now? Yeah. Are you seeing flags now, Armand?
Yeah, I can see that.
Cool. This is your standard preparatory signal. That goes up at 4 minutes. You all familiar with the 5410? Won't waste your time here. These two flags are pretty much the same, I think. This is the around the ends rule. So if you cross the start line, or if you enter the triangle bounded by the start line and the weather mark, anytime within the last minute, you have to, which is basically OCS, you have to go around the ends. At the Worlds in November, Laura and I, in one start, we were so late for a start that we were in that triangle, and we were afraid they were going to call us over, but I think they had pity on us, and they didn't or whatever, because we thought we'd have to go around the ends because we were coming in on a dip start. We were so late. This, I think, is a 20%. I think the Z flag, I think it's a 20%. We don't use that too much. The black flag means if you're OCS in that first minute, and excuse me, in the last minute before the start, you are DSQ. It is throwable, but it is DSQ, and you are not allowed to sail in the race. They not shown on here is a uniform flag, U flag. It's red and white, small checker, kind of like this guy, but with a lot more squares in it, and it's red and white. And that is like the black flag. It's you are DSQ'd unless they restart. Okay. Individual recall. Boy, was it us? I don't know. Was it? I don't know. I hate that one. General recall. That usually happens when you either have a really good start or a really bad start. The shortened course, a lot of times, they don't do that so much, but they will use the change flag. When they do use the change flag, at least at the national and world level, you'll see a red or a green plus and a plus or a minus. This means it's moved to the left. This means it's moved to the right. And this means they've shortened it. This means they've lengthened it. Usually they shorten it because the wind has died, or they've changed the location. I think this is, I don't remember what these are. This, I think, is life jackets. This is follow me flag. Oh, this one, this is the missing. So mark missing. So a lot of times, if there's strong current, you'll see this because the mark has moved, or they'll put a shortened course mark up at the weather or leeward mark, and then they'll fly. They might fly this, and they might fly this, depending. But that's pretty much it on the flags. What else do I got here? Yep, I already talked about being OCS. It's not bad to do once in a while. Just make sure it's on a 10-boat fleet and not on a 70-boat fleet. And I am going to wrap it up, you guys. So we're going to get this done. First thing I can leave you with 3 thoughts. Practice, practice, practice. Every time you go out on a boat, practices. Remember, starting is 90% of the race. So practice, all right? And I mean, it's boring to do all the time. I get that. So that's why it's worth mixing up. The other one, and the number one thing to do is to practice. So, and then practice sailing at low speeds, all right? So practice your starts, maybe setting up a schedule, doing all that. But that's about it. You know, we'll put in the usual obligatory, hey, if you want to donate to my sail, I don't have a web address here. I think I can, or maybe I can. Go to mysail.org, and it's all just, you know, we're all doing this with donate, you know, on volunteer and donated funds and everything. Let's see if I can find this. Shit, I'm trying to. Now I'm really screwed. All right, let me try this. I don't know what I'm doing. And we're gonna, I don't know what you're seeing now. You seeing the flags again?
Yeah.
Cool, appreciate it. And now, are you able to see? Yeah, and so here's our website. What's that? All right, anyhow, there's our website. If you have any questions, give me a shout. Yeah, I'll just open it up for questions. If anybody's got anything they want to cover.
Peter, yeah, one question. When you're developing your plan during the pre-start, and let's say you don't have any port bias, pin bias, or it's a square set line, and so you need to determine where you start on that line, where you would like to start, like committee boat, center, or a pin end. And obviously then you adjust your tactics and timing to that decision. How do you go about making that decision? Or if you had your choice on any start, is there a specific position that you would like to go for? Is it committee end, leeward end? How do you make that decision on where on the starting line?
That's a good question, and that's I would challenge anybody else in this. If you wanted to produce a particular situation, I will go through the thought process of the plan that I would put together if you think it would be helpful. But to answer your question, it's impossible to come up with a generic. If everything is square and the same and blah, 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 yeah, I'm probably starting at the top third of the line, simply because I don't want any great leverage. So I don't want to be at one end of the line or the other. And that way I can maintain a starboard advantage on the team, on the fleet.
When you say top third of the line, you mean the third of the line closest to the committee boat?
Correct. Yep. Yep. Okay. That's top, and then the pin's bottom. And I deal in thirds, to be honest with you. Sometimes I will tell my crew, we're going for the pin, but a lot of times it's the bottom third. But the way the most committees in America and at the national level set them up, if all things are equal, it's often there's a slight port bias. And for that reason, I do like a pin start or near the bottom third. What you'll see is down at the pin, you'll see boats ramp it up a few seconds earlier than the boats up at the committee boat. The boats up at the committee boat, they are all bunched up and they can't pull the trigger any sooner because they'll be OCS. The boats at the pin will typically leave a little bit of room to ramp and slingshot out. So a lot of times, oh, I have this one video I'll show you. Check this out. Let me see if I can find it first. Yeah, this, no. Oh, this is it. Give me a minute here. I got to find it. It's a really cool little video taken from a drone at the 16 Worlds. And yeah, where I think I lost it. Maybe not. Let me see if I can get it. And so while I look for it, let me see if I can find this sucker. Yeah, that's it. I got to learn YouTube a little better. There's videos. See if I had it, and then I let it go. Yeah, here it is. Hobie 16 World Highlights. And I'm going to see if, all right, let me share my screen, and I'm going to fast forward to it. It's a pretty cool little shot. And you'll see the lured end of this line on the start. Well, yeah, come on. There we go. Here, watch this start. And just look at all the guys from a drone. But also at the start, look at the guys down at the pin. And look at the separation that's going on. But you'll also see them. The guys up in the community boat, they're all stopped. And the guys are down at the pin, boom. And now look at the guys down here. They are so much lower. These guys are trying to drive off of these guys. Whoops. So you can see these guys are actually moving. And judging by the bias, it tells me that maybe on this race, the fleet mostly wanted to go here. But so there's plenty of room here. And these guys are getting a running start. And then after the start, look at, I don't know if there's a wind shift. The guys are just putting their bow down or what. But watch after they sheet on. Boom. Look at the separation. Wow. All right. So anyhow, to answer your question, let me stop that video. So to answer your question, I got some other videos. We might do that again here. Yeah, so I tend, I want to become an all-around starter, and I'm really about 50-50 weather end and leeward end. I do like the weather end because I get starboard advantage, but I like the leeward end because I can go fast and cross bows. So it really depends on the plan and the information I've received, and there isn't any one set thing that I prefer.
Yeah, but what I'm hearing you say, Peter, is it's not the middle of the line because of sag and because of the picket fence and the wind that you're talking about that flows over the entire fleet. You don't want to be in the middle of the line.
Well, and that's really a good question. It's actually got more to do with just that I tend to like one side better than the other. And so for that reason, I'm going to that end of the line. I'm not too worried about that picket fence effect because if I'm punched out, even in the middle of the line, it doesn't bother me so much. And if my crew, oh, you guys, I was in Fiji. This is 2003. And at the Worlds in Fiji, it was my second Worlds. I think it was in the Masters. And my crew, Laura Sullivan, she's giving me time and distance. And she goes, 12 seconds, boat length and a half. And I went, say what? She goes, yeah. She goes, 8 seconds, one boat length. And no, and I think it was actually 8 seconds, like 2 boat lengths. I said, sheet on. And we punched out. This is a world championship. We were a full boat length in front of the picket fence. And we were not OCS. Yeah. And within 30 seconds, we were 10 boat lengths in front of the entire fleet. And we went on to win that race, wire to wire. It was a really exciting time. But I'll do the middle for a conservative start. when I have great confidence that I don't need to win either pin, and maybe because I'm not too sure which way I want to go. Maybe it's like, man, the left's been filling in and then the right was filling in. I don't want to get too far away from either of them. So so that really comes down to the overall plan that you put together for that weather leg. Are you going to play the left side, the right side, 1/3 up the left side, 1/3 up the right? How's that all playing out? I've had some great races in big fleets going right up the middle. All right. Not one that just about every race that I've won at the national world level, I can remember tacking short of the poor lay line, and a lot of times just getting lifted right up to it. So the sun don't shine on the same dog's butt all the time, right? And so every once in a while, they give the chipmunk an acorn, whatever you want to call it. But so you just got to lay out what your plan is, left, middle, or right, and the bias on the line. It's a little conflicting when the right side is favored, but it's really heavily pin favored, and you're like, oh man, I really want to go down there, to the pin, but God, man, I don't want to give up that many boat lengths or whatever. And that's where the conflict comes in a little bit sometimes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. All right. Anything else, you guys? Any other questions? Anybody want to give me any situations or anything that you got that we can? All right, then. Here's the deal. Already talked about myself. Feel free. mysail.org. If you want to throw a few bucks in the kitty, we'd love it. But if not, that's cool too, man. And we'll be back next Friday. Robbie and Jill are going to be back with more of their training video. So I don't know what we're going to talk about. We'll figure something out. And I wouldn't mind breaking it down with weather leg and, weather mark rounding, all that. But we'll see what it's about, you guys. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.